What's good, YouTube? Car if I can't hear Aqua Life, baby. You already know how it is. Alright, so today, guys, I just wanted to reiterate a few points that I made from last video, as well as when I talk about the state of Aqua Force Part 1. But I also wanted to argue two main points in addition to that. One of the first points I do want to argue is that I believe that if we did have another grade 3 Thavas, if we had received another grade 3 Thavas in GSED 9 when we last got support, obviously. Not speculating on what its ability was going to do, but most likely if we are going to follow the recent trend of like Starlight Night Rose, Searing Asha, Chronojet G, Ultima, is going to work with the clan ability. So most likely, we would have had a Thavas card that works with the wave cards. And I believe that if we had another grade 3 Thavas that worked with the wave cards, it would have, in effect, made the support that we last received in Set 9, and even the support dating back to the end of 2015 when we had the clan booster for Aqua Force, it would have made those wave cards that we use from there a lot better. It would have definitely improved those cards. And like I said, the wave support cards that we have are not good. They did not have an impact in the deck at all. The deck more or less still has not changed as far as rear guards, have go. We do run a few wave cards, but a lot of the wave cards now, and some of them then, only work with other wave cards. Nikitas can only switch with the wave card. Janka can only gain power for every other wave card on your board. We received one Stride card that has wave, so to speak, that we generally use. And obviously you guys know Wailing Thavas is fantastic, but you get the gist of what I'm saying. There are exceptions like Melania, who doesn't work with wave cards. She does have the ability, but doesn't work, doesn't really work with wave cards. She's a standalone type of card. But if we did have a Thavas G that did work with wave, despite our wave cards having lackluster effects, I believe that that they would still be not that great, but their value in the deck would have improved had we had a Thavas G that works in conjunction with the wave cards and supports them in some way, shape, or fashion. The other argument is that if we had a Thavas G, just to have the name Thavas G, would have improved the consistency of Aqua Force. And Aqua Force, like I said, guys, last video, Aqua Force is not in a good state right now. Not saying that we are a bad clan by any stretch of the imagination. We have a strong Stride deck. The only thing that's lacking in our Stride deck, really, that is a necessary need. There are other things that I could ask for in our Stride deck, but the basic need for our Stride deck is a lack of good defensive cards. We are still relying on cards like Screw and Dismal to provide us with the type of defense we need. It's hard to rely on our G Guardians for Aqua Force, Floatia and Ice Barrier. Floatia, who's restricted to the first or second battle. Ice Barrier, who's restricted to the first or fourth or more battle. I've played in high-profile tournaments, the Team Absolution tournament, for instance, 55 players and Island Games. I've played against opponents who definitely know how to play against Aqua Force, and they've made it so that their third battle is an attack in which I would generally be forced to use a G Guardian on, if not a perfect guard. But my G Guardian's value, unless I went into Screw, would have been null and void. It would have just been a basic 26, basic bring my defense up to 26k. It wouldn't have done anything because they attacked on that sweet spot. The fact that our G Guardians have a glaring weakness in that sweet spot of the third battle is something that we really, to me, did not need to happen. We did not need to have a chink in the armor of a already fragile defensive defensive game plan that we can execute for Aqua Force, despite the fact that we can draw cards and get some advantages here and there. But like I said, our Stride deck you know, the main deck, you know, cards like Adelaide, cards like Melania, and things like that. Even, you know, even Mitros, who need a Thavas Vanguard, would have been a lot better. Would have been these cards would be a lot more consistent if we had that. Sure, you can make the argument that we have Thavas great. We have two Thavas Great Fours. We have Wailing and we have Commander Thavas, and we can go on them if we want our Thavas cards. But again, there are going to be situations where, you know, cards like Lambros, even Aristotle, for instance, Lambros and Aristotle, are going to be better cards for the situation that you're put in. I understand that there is an argument that I want to make that Lambros has had his value decrease since the introduction of G Guardians, as well as other factors from what other decks are getting, but I'll talk about that later. But, you know, for example, in the ARG like a few months ago, I was playing, this was before we had Wailing Thavas, I was stuck on Skiros against Shadow Paladins, top 4. I couldn't get to Thavas to save my life. Lambros would have definitely been able to finish off the game for me. I had my opponent more or less at 4 damage. I had Adelaide ready to go, set up. I actually had a Melania and Anastasia ready to go, set up. And I was set up for a pretty strong Lambros turn, so to speak, which Adelaide would have made. But the fact that I was not on a Thavas Vanguard hindered my ability to actually go into Lambros and be able to use Adelaide and Melania effectively, or at all rather, because I didn't have a Thavas Grade 3. I didn't have another Thavas Grade 3. Asha, Chronojet, Ultimile, they have their Grade 3s now. Other clans like Tachikaze's, most likely Nubatama's soon, Night Rose, and Pale Moon, Hari, Magia. They have theirs. They have their ride consistency, which is what I'm arguing for that we should have received in said 9. Is that we should have had our ride consistency with the Grade 3 Thavas. And it would definitely have improved the consistency of an already inconsistent deck. And by inconsistent, I'm talking about we still need to rely on top decking. We need to rely on advantage cards like Melania and Saberflow Sailor to be able to draw into our pieces. Not saying you have to run them, but you do need to have cards. You do need to have some card draw. You do need to have the ability to gain some advantage. Because if we're not seeing our units, and if we have to use certain units to guard, then we're in trouble. We do not have the ability to superior call. We do not have the ability to do the whole time leaping or anything like that. We have to rely on drawing what we need. And in that effect, a lot of our really good cards, Adelaide, Melania, for instance, work only if you have a Thavas Vanguard. And if we had another Thavas Vanguard, then the deck would be a lot more consistent. Then we would be free to go into Lambros without worry. We would be free to go into Aristotle without worry, because in situations they're better in certain situations. Aristotle more or less on your first stride, if anything. Lambros mid game, late game sometimes. Even though Wailing Thavas has proven to be an extremely good finisher, and and a card that I value very strongly in the deck. Sometimes Lambros is a better finisher than he is, especially when you're at 4 damage and your opponent's guarding your attack, and then you attack with Thavas and then have to chance a crit trigger. Yes, sure, it might be free damage, but again, at the same time, your opponent, again, it happened to me when I played against Blacksea, when I played against Edward. I had to set up some sort of turn with Wailing Thavas, and if I put them to 5 at Wailing Thavas, then that's great. But then, again, they take a chance on the drive check, and if you don't check a crit trigger, you never want to leave anything up to chance. You want to make sure that, you can, put as much skill into it as possible and use what you have to put your opponent in a bad position and not have to rely on luck to win a game. Because obviously, it's like Russian roulette. It's like a coin flip. What are you going to get? So yes, again, guys, the main deck for Thavas more or less have not changed for my main cards. There's still not a grade 2 that they've come out with that can replace Tidal Assault, that replaces the value that I know I saw a video where this dude didn't run Tidal Assault and failed to present a viable argument as to why Tidal Assault, you know, was not really good or worth running. But Tidal Assault works with Wailing Thavus. This guy by himself, even if he doesn't hit, procs Wailing Thavus' ability for guard manipulation and retire too. You know, early game, this card's devastating early game, stacking any triggers. On the Lambros turn, when you can attack a rear guard, reset him at 19, he still has 2 attacks to get off. And if you stack any triggers or apply any sort of power to him, you know, he becomes, you know, a devastating card nobody wants to deal with. You know, they still have not come out, and I don't think they might be able to, but they still have not come out with a, you know, that's better than Tidal Assault, objectively speaking. You know, personal bias, if I put into it, I think Tidal Assault is the best grade 2. You know, he's my favorite grade 2. You know, objectively, he is Aqua Force is one strong trade. This is the only card that provides Thavus with some sort of early game. In Blue Waves, this card is absolutely amazing too because it adds to their strong early game as well with, you know, with Foivos. So he is in effect fantastic. You still have cards like, you know, we still play Adelaide. Adelaide, you know, our Glimmer Breath Tone, 11k attacker, can attack the Vanguard twice. Obviously great, you know, great setup for the Lambros turn, one of the key cards in the Lambros turn. Magnum Assault, again, another great card, but the difference between Magnum Assault and Stacia has free 9k attack from the back row is that, is that this needs Thavus to work. This needs to have a grade 3 Thavus to work. These guys don't, and that's good, but you're not always going to have them on the field. Or if you have like a Stacia still needs somebody. You know, Magnum relies on actually having a booster to get off, so to speak. So they do have their conditions to fill. Tidal Assault's just, you know, Tidal Assault. But cards like Melania and Adelaide need a grade 3 Thavus, and the fact that we lack another grade 3 Thavus means that that means that what we're doing is limiting ourselves. We have to limit ourselves if we're not on Thavus. If we're, you know, messing around and we're stuck on, we're stuck on Skiros. We mess around and we're stuck on Skiros. You know, that means that we limit our options. We limit we limit what we can do. We limit the ability to use this crit trigger because, you know, you want to go into Lambros when at the same time, you know, you do want to get this critical trigger off, put it into the soul, be able to draw a card, give your Vanguard a little extra 5k, make it harder for your opponent to guard, and things like that. But we had to ride Skiros, so that limits the options that we have to go into for you know, what we might have on board, especially if we're holding on to Thavus support cards like Adelaide or Melania. So, you know, again, not saying Aqua Force is in a bad state. We're not in a bad state. We're in a state better than most, but we're definitely not on, you know, we're definitely not on more or less the level of what Neo Nectars have now become, where, you know, where Royals are. Obviously, Saint Guard is fantastic still. They didn't get touched. And I haven't explored much into the new Brave Ultimum, but from what I have seen, the deck has gotten a whole hell of a lot better. And the Brave mechanic, you know, has went from more of a side joke to now it's something that is waiting to see, you know, since the Tri 3 booster came out, now it's waiting to see how it does, you know, how it performs in tournaments, you know, to be a viable deck or whatnot because of what they received. And you already know how Gear Chronicles already are. So, again, what we are missing is a lack of a consistency in writing and wave card and you know, support for wave. The wave cards that we have, really, again, they just are not good. They really just are not that good. And what is wave? Same ability as her, 4th or more battle. Okay, 4th or more battle. Him, 4th or more battle. Wave is literally the same thing, but the fact that the Wave cards want you to have units with Wave on the board and to be able to specifically target them for abilities, when a lot of these other generic cards that don't have the Wave ability but do pretty much do literally the same thing as Wave, you know, give you better value, give you what you need. And competitively speaking, the deck for Thavis more or less has not changed at all. If anything, you have minor changes in your grade 2 lineup, and you have, you have a decision to make as starter. You know, I know some people run Bubble Edge Draco Kid. I don't really like that card. I feel as if you're forced to overcommit, and sometimes you have to hold him just to get a measly draw for some value out of him. But more or less between Mitros and Andre, which card do you want? What card is going to give you the better value? So, to wrap this all up, again, I'm just going to conclude that having a Thavis G that could possibly work with the Wave support cards, despite the lackluster abilities that some of these Wave cards have in comparison to what we already have, would have gotten possibly a lot better if we had a Thavis G or another Thavis Grade 3 Vanguard that worked in conjunction with the Wave support cards. And that if we had another Thavis just himself, regardless of what he does, that would have improved the overall consistency of the Thavis deck. Blue Waves have it. Ripples have a way to fix their Vanguard circle with Odysseus, and they also have a Ride Chain. Blue Waves have, Tetra Drive and Anger Boil. Thavis has himself, and that's himself and whoever you choose to play as your backup Vanguard. Alright, it's the Cardfight King, guys. I am going to do I think I might show you guys a bit of an updated build to my Thavis deck. It's just minor changes here and there. It's either that or I can bring out a Wave builds. I have played around. I played around with the Wave stuff quite a bit when I first, when the stuff first came out, just trying to see if anything more or less changed. I can bring you that. I can bring that, and I also want to do something interesting. I saw one of my boys do. Toby from Team S2N, little hand test session, just talking about certain things and just looking at test hands, talking about like what I'm going to mulligan, what kind of plays I can make here and there, and effectively using cards and such. So got a lot of ideas that I want to definitely do, but what I do want you to take away from this video is that having another Grade 3 Thavis would have improved the Wave support cards that we have, and it would have improved the overall consistency of the Aquaforce deck. We won't have to limit our stride options within Thavis. We won't have to limit our stride options if we're not on the Thavis Vanguard, and we and it would definitely open up deck building. It would open up a lot of avenues that we could travel down like other clans are traveling down right now. Alright, and I'll see y'all next video. Peace. Aqua Life, baby. You already know how it is.